Ladies and gentlemen of the Action Army, what is going on, and welcome to another episode of Answers for Athletes. In today's video, I'm going to talk about 7 huge mistakes that I made as a trainer while training professional athletes. So at this point, I've trained everyone and their mother. I haven't just trained professional athletes. I've trained elementary school athletes, middle school, high school, college, semi-pro, and professional athletes from all different backgrounds. In person, it has been mainly basketball players, pretty much all basketball players. I've only trained one athlete that is not a basketball player in person. And online, I've trained literally everyone: basketball players, volleyball players. I've trained parkour athletes. I've trained skateboarders. I've trained footballers, American football, literally everything online. But my goal with this video is, if you are an aspiring coach or trainer, or you are a coach or a trainer right now, that you can learn from the 7 huge mistakes that I made and avoid these mistakes yourself, because they say a stupid man never learns. A smart man learns from his mistakes, and a wise man learns from the mistakes of others. So I'm going to give you these 7 mistakes that I made, and hopefully you can avoid all the dumb shit that I did over the decade plus that I've been training professional athletes or athletes of all walks of life. So here we go. I'm going to give you one bonus, and then I'm going to give you the 7 mistakes, the 7 big mistakes that I made. So here's the bonus. I think that this isn't a mistake for me, but I think it would be a mistake for you if you got so specific from the very beginning like I did. So from the very beginning, in person, I trained only basketball players, and I was very stingy about it. Even if basketball, like if someone reached out to me and they said, they found out I'm from Pittsburgh and they said, "Hey, will you train me?" I was very stingy about, if I don't know you, if you're not one of the top basketball players in the area, I wouldn't train that individual. So I only trained basketball players, and not only that, I would only train the highest level basketball players in the area. And the reason is because I just don't have time. I don't have that much time in person. I have my hands in everything. I coach a high school basketball team, the YouTube channel, this YouTube channel. I have a son now. Like there's too much going on. So why is this a mistake? I think that it's a mistake for you or aspiring trainers, because you learn much more when you work with many different types of athletes and individuals, and you learn that not everyone has the same goals. There's multiple different ways to achieve all of these goals, and you just get way more experience. So instead of me just training basketball players, or you just training basketball players, you would learn so much more if you trained, a volleyball player here, and a baseball player here, and a swimmer here at first. I'm not saying that you can't eventually get to being very specific like I am, like all one population, but you train a volleyball player, then a baseball player, and then a swimmer, and then some basketball players. Then you train somebody who they want to be a bodybuilder. Then you train an elderly individual. Then you train the girl that just wants to get her butt bigger. Then you train somebody who just wants to lose weight. Like, you will learn so much more when you learn about all different aspects of training, and that not everybody has the same goals. But that is just a bonus. I think that was not a mistake for me, because I have a background. I've played basketball my whole life. I've done bodybuilding shows. I've researched and read a ton. I'm just obsessed with this stuff. So while I don't think it was a mistake for me to start with just basketball players, I do think that you would gain more experience if you trained athletes and individuals from all walks of life. All right, let's get into the real stuff. So these are, I guess you don't have to be specific for these, but this is specifically like, if you train athletes, or if your goal is to train athletes right now, these are the mistakes that I made. Number 1, not pushing the athletes hard enough, or allowing shitty reps to occur. This was a big one for me. So at first, I guess I was a little bit intimidated, because, so I started off, so let me tell you the story just very quickly of how I started training athletes. I trained I trained online, and I made YouTube videos for about 5 years, and I trained myself before I started training in person. Then one day this kid that I knew in person who's a Division II basketball player. He said, hey, will you train me? I see all your videos. You know what you're doing. Sounds like you know what you're doing. Will you train me? I said, sure, let's do it. So I started training him, and he got really good results. And then he said, hey, a bunch of my buddies, a bunch of other D2, D1, D2, D3 athletes want to train with you as well. Can they come? I said, yeah, bring them. Then he said, my older brother plays professionally in Spain, and he's back. Once he gets back from season, he's about to be back. He wants to train with us as well. I said, yeah, bring him. And he said, my younger brother is a track athlete. Can he train? I said, yeah, bring him. So that is the one track athlete that I train in person. Every other individual that I train in person is a basketball player. But at first, and this goes back to mistake number one, at first when I'm training these pro athletes and these semi-pro athletes and these college basketball players and like the best basketball players in the area, I was a little bit intimidated to, like, I didn't want to lose them as clients. So I was like trying to be everybody's friend and not pushing them hard enough. Whereas nowadays, I don't need you. Like, I really don't need any athletes. I don't need the money. I could save the time. My goal is to help you become a better athlete and be the best that you can be. So back then, I was allowing a lot of bullshit to occur. And one day I went to a seminar in Vegas ran by Drew Hanlon. You know, he trains Jason Tatum, Joel Embiid. He's their skills trainer. But I went there for PGF Performance because PGF Performance was going to be one of the speakers. So I go to this conference in Vegas, and another speaker came on. I can't remember his name, but on Instagram, he is Be Better, Be Different on Instagram. And he trains NBA players as well. And he said something that really stuck with me. He said, if I walk in to the gym or if I walk into the weight room and I see your guys doing something that looks like bullshit, there's one of two things has occurred. Either you taught them to do it that way or you're allowing them to do it that way. And when I first started training athletes, I was allowing a lot of athletes to do a bunch of bullshit. So for example, pull-ups is a big one that comes to my mind right now. A lot of athletes, they cheat their pull-ups. Like, I remember one time I asked this basketball player, how many pull-ups can you do? He said, I don't know, probably like 20. It was my first time training him. He said, probably like 20. I'm like, damn, that's a lot. Like, that's pretty good. You can do 20 pull-ups. And he proceeds to get on the bar, does an underhand grip, nothing wrong with that. And the range of motion, I shit you not, was about 3 inches. And like, he's doing pull-ups like this. And I'm like, 0 pull-ups were done that day. Now, this was when I've been training for a while, but in the beginning, I wouldn't have let that go. I would have said go lower, but there was a lot of reps where like these athletes were cheating the reps and I was just letting it go. And I'd be like, all right, nice set, nice set. Where in the back of my mind, I knew that was a fucking terrible set. Like, that was, no adaptations were made. So that was one mistake that I made, was allowing bullshit to occur, allowing shitty reps to occur. Whereas now, I'll wait till they get done with the set and I'll say, hey, you told me your goals, right? And they'll say, yeah. I say, you told me that you want me to hold you to the highest standard possible, correct? Yeah. Well, I would be doing you a disservice if I didn't say that whole set was fucking terrible. So we're going to redo that set. That set does not count. Here's how I want you to do that. And you only have to say this a couple times, and then they get it. They understand that they can't cheat the reps, right? But I have to teach it the correct way in the first place. And I do the same thing with my basketball team, right? We have, like, my basketball team and the athletes that I train in person, they understand that it's just better off to do it correctly the first time because we don't want coach to tell us to do it again. So we might as well just give everything we have. Like, we run suicides for my basketball team. You have 35 seconds to do a suicide. If you don't make it in that 35 seconds, we redo it. I don't care if the heel of your left foot was not past the line by a centimeter. You didn't make it. You didn't make it in the 35 seconds. So we redo it. So anyways, that is mistake number one. allowing a bunch of shitty reps, allowing bullshit to occur. You either teach them to do it that way or you allow them to do it that way. So if you're not teaching them these shitty ass reps, then you're just allowing this bullshit to occur. Don't be that trainer. Mistake number 2 is giving athletes what they want instead of giving athletes what they need. So I can remember that a 6'7" semi-professional basketball player came in, and I had known him from a bunch of men's leagues. I had played with him. We were cool, right? I'd played on the same team as him, against him, locked him up. What's wrong with you? Locked him up. But he came in and he said, hey, I said, what are your goals? He said, I want to increase my vertical. And I said, listen to me. You are 6'7" with long ass arms and a 40-inch vert. Why in the hell do you want to increase your vertical? There's so many other qualities that we could improve to help you become a better basketball player. So in the beginning of my training, I would have said, yeah, bro, let's increase your vert, when I knew that that's not what he needs, right? So he's already dunking everything, already has a 40, already 6'7", already long ass wingspan. Like, you don't need a higher vertical. You need to improve your first step explosiveness. You need to improve your lateral quickness. You need to improve your mobility. You need some general strengthening. So the second mistake that I made was giving athletes what they wanted. A lot of athletes would come in with knee pain, and they would say, Coach, I want to dunk. Like, when I drive through the lane, all these layups, like, they need to be dunks. I would say, I agree, but your knee pain is absolutely terrible right now. So I don't want to jump to vertical jump training. I want to fix your knees first and then get into the vertical jump training. Whereas back then I would have said, yeah, let's dabble in the world of vertical jump training, even though your knees really hurt, knowing that that is not the right thing to do for that athlete. I would give them what they wanted as opposed to what they actually needed and would help them get the best results. So that is mistake number 2. Don't do that shit. Number 3, too much volume, even when they didn't need it. So a lot of these athletes, they play a lot of basketball. Like, once you get to this high level like this, you're doing skills training every day, once a day, at bare minimum. You have multiple games a week, at least one game a week. If you're in the off season, you're playing a lot of basketball, and I would make the mistake of thinking, well, they're paying me for these sessions. They're expecting a really hard, intense workout. And then I would crush them and they would feel really good, when I knew in the back of my mind, like, all this stuff, as a trainer, but like, that's not the best thing for them that day. Right. So I'm very big now on athletes telling me what they have for the week. And we plan around what they have for the week. And I give them what they need. And most of the time what they need is super low volume, very high intensity. So you can still keep a workout really high intensity, right? Max effort sets, whether it's plyos, whether it's strength training, whatever parameter we're trying to improve, you can still go super high intensity. But I was doing too much volume because I felt like, well, they're paying me for this workout, I got to crush them in this workout. But it's just not best for them in the long run. So that is mistake number 3, too much volume, even when they didn't need it. Mistake number 4 is, actually I have 2 mistake number 4. So I guess you guys are getting 8 mistakes in this video instead of 7. Oh, well. Oh, wait. What the hell am I saying? What the fuck? Anyways, mistake number 4 is not putting myself through it first. And this goes for my online training programs and my in-person athletes. Now, for my in-person athletes, this is a little bit less. This applies a little bit less. I normally put myself through everything that I have them go through. But for my online training programs, one mistake that I made was I would make these workouts that look really good on paper, and then I would go through the workout and it would be really, really hard. Or I'd be in the gym for like 2 hours, 2.5 hours. And I'd be like, okay, well, That's way too high volume. That's way longer than I thought it was going to be. So one mistake that I think a lot of trainers and coaches make is that they tell their athletes to do shit that they've never even done themselves. So that is why now, every single workout that I have ever posted in an online training program, I've been through that workout myself. And this vertical jump secret system, my newest program, I'm currently going through the vertical jump secret system. And you learn along the way as you're going through this, this is way too hard. If this is hard for me, then there's no way little Johnny's going to do it when he buys this program. Or if this is way too hard for me, these athletes in person are really going to be hurting. So that is a mistake that I think a lot of trainers make, is giving their athletes workouts or training sessions or exercises that they have never even done or experimented with themselves. Number 5 is not competing enough. So when I train athletes in person, I train a lot of athletes at the same time. I like to do groups. It's just individual sessions. I still do them. But I think I have a little bit more fun. It's a little bit more enjoyable to me to do group sessions. Now, it gets difficult when you have different athletes of, different capabilities. But for the group sessions that I do, competing is a great way to drive up intensity of that session. So it can be competing something as simple as we're all going to sprint, but we're going to race. It's a race, so don't be last. It could be, it could be a dunk session. We might do, especially for like warm-ups on a low room, we might do different dunks and play like dunk, D-U-N-K, kind of like horse, but we play dunk, and you have to do, it's just a warm-up, but it makes it fun, and we're competing. So I didn't do a lot of competing at first. I would have these groups of athletes, and we would all do, all right, let's all do this same rigid warm-up. Then let's all do this, our speed work. And then let's all do our plyos. Then let's all do our power work. Then let's all do our strength work. And that's not good, or that's not bad. There's nothing wrong with that. But when you have a bunch of athletes in the same group or on the same team, you can use competition to drive up intensity and get outputs that you wouldn't get if they weren't competing against each other. So that's one mistake that I think I made in the beginning a lot, is not having the athletes compete enough. Mistake number 6 is veering away from the basics. This one's funny because in the beginning of training athletes in person, I would see something on Instagram that looked really cool. I'd be like, oh, I want to try that. And I would add it to the athlete's program in person, and then I would never do it again. Or even if I did do it again, like I would veer away from the basics in the sense that we all know what's going to improve performance, especially for vertical jump. It's your sprints and your depth jumps and your hops and your skips and your max approach touches and your dunks. And it's going to be, your squats, you have your deadlifts, you have your barbell RDLs, you have your hinge, you have your calf raise. We know the exercises that are going to help improve performance the most. But I would go and I would be scrolling Instagram and I would see something from someone that would look interesting, and then I would add that to their program when it looked really interesting, but for that athlete, it was just like, this has no purpose in our program. That's not the quality that they really need to improve. So I think that is one mistake that I made a lot, was just seeing a bunch of other coaches and trainers over here doing this thing and thinking, oh, I have to do that too. When in reality, the basics are the basics. Like, you're going to have to veer away from the basics a little bit, especially with basketball players. But I think that's a big mistake that I made, was just seeing shit on Instagram that other coaches and trainers were doing and trying to think, oh, that looks really cool. Let me give this to this athlete so they think I really know what I'm doing. Like, it just there's no purpose for that. This is not to say that everything that you see on Instagram is not good. A lot of it is. And then where are we at? I've got 2 number 4. So it's 3, 4, 5, 6. Number 7. Wait, I guess we only do have 7. I don't know, man. Where am I at? Okay, we have 7. This is the last one. Not charging enough. And I saved this for last for a reason because it doesn't have too much to do with training, but not charging what you are worth. So the very first athlete that I ever trained in person was a Division II basketball player. And I started off charging him $50 a month. And he trained with me 3 days a week. That comes out to $4.16 per session. Like, what? Like $4. So in the beginning, I did train him just because I was like, well, let me get some experience training people in person. But then as I went on, I'm very big on like grandfathering people in. The OGs who have, been paying me this smaller amount, they can keep paying me that smaller amount. So even as I increase my prices for everybody else, I still let him pay me $50 a set or a month because he was an OG. He was the first person that I ever trained, and I didn't want to increase his pricing, which should I have? Probably, but he was a very easy athlete to train and to get along with. So I would do these group sessions. I would text him his workout for the day, and then he would go do it. And he might come back and say, hey, you want me to do this on this? And I would say, yeah, make sure the intent is this. And then he would go back and he would just do it. So I really wasn't even training him. I would focus on this other group of athletes. He would just be there. His goals were different, so he would go off and train by himself. So I didn't mind him paying me $50 a month. But if I were you, once you get some experience, at first you might even train athletes for free, like to gain the experience at first. But then once you get some experience, I would charge nothing less than $50 for a one-on-one and nothing less than $30 for a group. So groups are awesome because let's say, I don't know, let's say I've had big groups before, like 10 athletes. At that point, they were all paying me $20, so $200 in an hour and a half. It's pretty cool, but once you get bigger in the groups and everybody has individual needs, it becomes a little bit more difficult. But yeah, that is number 6. One mistake that I made was just not charging enough, not charging what I'm worth. Now at this point, I feel like I know what I'm worth and I don't need the money. So if like I say a price and they're like, oh, that's too expensive, I'll be like, well, Jimmy down the street will train you and get you injured. Go down there. So yeah, but anyways, these are 7 mistakes, big mistakes that I made when training not only pro athletes, but athletes of all walks of life. So don't be stupid. Don't be smart. Be wise and learn from the mistakes that I made, and don't do any of the dumb shit that I did when training athletes. Like this video if you like it, subscribe to the channel. If this is content that you're interested in, comment jump for a free bodyweight vertical drum training program. Leave your question down below if you want me to answer your question in a video just like this, and I'll see you tomorrow at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Peace.